Yeah, you too.
So it appears that you're married.
Yes.
Your husband at school there also?
Yeah, he's going into welding.
In welding. Yeah,
Mhm.
my daughter graduated last year, and my son-in-law graduates this year. His is construction management.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's cool. All right. So when did you graduate?
This is my last semester.
This is your last semester. Oh, so you're ahead of me by one. I don't graduate till summer.
Nice. Are you entrepreneurial?
Yeah. Well, you don't have much choice when you're online.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, anyway. All right. Well, good. Good. Um, anyway, we're supposed to take now. Are you timing this thing or whatever? Or are we videoing it, or what are we doing? It says live up there, so we must be videoing it.
Yeah, we're videoing it. I don't see a time anywhere though.
Okay. Well, as long as he gets it and he can see what we've done, then I guess that'll
Yeah.
be fine. It did say something somewhere that we had to do something so he could see the time.
Yeah, it said make a timestamp, but I didn't totally understand what it meant. So
yeah, well, and maybe that's not for this, okay?
yeah.
And maybe that's for a different program.
Yeah, I looked at other people's videos and they didn't have anything.
Oh,
like
so we can actually see the others. We can see other people's videos on this.
Yeah, there was a discussion board where people were putting their videos.
Oh, well, maybe we better talk about the program before. Anyway, so I'm assuming that what we're doing is just going to go through our eight questions. Is that what and then what we decided at the end? Is that how we handle this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
All right. So the first question says, what do you think, what's this, Osher?
Yeah.
The process for identifying opportunities and building companies. What do you think of the process?
I just think he was really good at seeing a need in any of the markets he was in, because he was in quite a few different markets, and was very successful in all of them with the toys and jewelry and that stuff. Yeah. So
yeah, and that's what I said. I thought that he was just kind of like he was just a natural entrepreneur. He just seemed to know how to do it from when he was a kid, and it was interesting. He seemed to be able to see the need and figure out how to solve the problem. And yeah, so I think that's what we both agree. Okay, who is John?
I just put that he knew when to take the risk and when not to. I think that just goes along with his natural instinct of being a really good businessman.
Right.
He just knew instinctually what was good and what wasn't.
And and how he came up with the ideas was simply seeing the need. Yeah. Is spin brush a good idea?
I mean, from what we know now, it definitely was a good idea. And it sounded like he was the first one that really perfected it. So he found the hole and he filled it, and he didn't really have any competition. So it seemed like a great idea.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I thought it was a great idea. I have an electric toothbrush. It doesn't have to be one of those kind. But and I had to agree that one of the things that, although mine, I can make it work somewhat like a regular toothbrush, but it's not the way it was designed.
Yeah.
And sometimes I like it to work like a regular toothbrush. And I thought that was interesting, that was one of the complaints that people had about electric toothbrushes, is they didn't work like a regular one.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, and his use of patents was really good because no one could really take his idea exactly. They had to figure out something else. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was, and being the small man on the totem pole, he needed to be able to protect himself as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Even big companies have to do that, but he especially. Why haven't large companies already done a spin brush? Well, it appeared that Procter & Gamble had been trying to do something, maybe not a spin brush, but something in a small, less expensive model, and had not had any success.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe this guy just hired the right engineers.
Yeah, it seems like he got it done quicker than they ever thought they could.
Yeah. Yeah, wasn't it Procter & Gamble that said they'd been trying it for years and hadn't come up with anything usable? Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's because they already had a successful, expensive product and they didn't really feel the need to push it.
I thought Procter & Gamble was the one that didn't have one at all.
Yeah, they might not have.
One company that didn't. I thought it was them.
Yeah.
But but that would be a reason why, if you already had all your money spent, all your on a expensive one, and it might be, hey, I need to stay there until I get my money back, until I get to break even.
Yeah.
And whether they had made anything else or not. But yeah, I think it was also his determination. Once he decided that something needed to be made, he didn't settle for, it can't be done.
Yeah.
His idea was, if we can think about it, then we ought to be able to find a way to do it. And he didn't. And I remember reading that somewhere in his the case that his way of thinking about it was that it can't be done. You just can't take that quickly.
Yeah.
You've got to make it work for it. Let's see. How much is spin brush worth, and how would you place a value on a company?
Yeah, I didn't totally know, like, the worth, like if there's a real formula for that, or that's just like what.
Unfortunately, I know there's a formula. Unfortunately, I can't remember how to do it. I have a real bad problem. After a semester is over, I kind of just close out all of that and think about the new stuff. And I probably could have found it, but it would have taken me a while to found how that formula works. But so I have my own means of doing that. And basically my own process was to figure out, if you could, how much money the company was making on their product for a year.
Yeah.
Then look into seeing how long they had protection, how long are their patents good for, and then say, okay, that's how much that company's worth to me. If I'm making, $1 million a year, and my patents are good for another 7 years, and it's at least 7 million. And at the same time, you have to take into consideration, I think I sort of remember this, that you have to take into consideration that the company's going to improve its income each year. So you have to kind of take some kind of a flow of how that works. And that's really hard, I think, on a startup company. It's not as hard to figure on a company that's been in existence for 10 years. Because then you can see where they have come from and where they are and how they're growing. But so I'm not sure how you do it with a startup, but I do believe that it's possible with a company that's been in existence for a while.
Yeah.
So that's what I explained, was that it was as how I, basically that's how I would figure it out, or how I would set it up. Doesn't make it right. But with his company, to me, it would be silly to to sell it unless you could get a lot of money for it, because it was going. So I put down I put down 10 billion, and so because if he was selling what was it, 6,000 units a day, times $6 a unit, times 365 days, that was $13 billion.
Yeah, that's what I got.
And so I figured if you did that, and then you subtracted the materials and the labor to get them made, since they were so inexpensive to make, what was he getting, 85% markup? Don't I remember I read that somewhere?
Yeah.
And so he'd at least be getting 10 billion a year. You know, the way I figured it.
Mm-hmm.
Now maybe it wouldn't be quite that much, but you know, that's I think that he'd be certainly worth that. What should John do? Well, I have a perhaps a totally different idea about what John should do. What was your idea?
I said that he should partner with another company, whether it was Procter and Gamble or Crest or whatever he was looking into, because I don't think it was smart to sell, because there was so much room to grow, and selling, he wouldn't have, it's just done. He sells it and he's not part of it anymore. And making it its own company, I mean, he seems very successful in doing that, but it would just be hard to know where that company would go, what his next product would be, because he wanted to be ingenuitive and have these new products, but it's hard to do that every time. So
right. Well, my thoughts were similar in that I thought he should either sell it if he could get the money he wanted, or to partner with someone like Procter and Gamble, because I think John needs to be out of it. I don't think John is going to be able to stay there. You look at his history. He started the business in high school, away from it. He went to college. He started a new business, sold it, and got away from it. Started what was the next one? I don't remember. But the longest business he had, he only stayed in it for 8 years. And it was like he had done everything he could do. The business was growing, and he didn't want to be it anymore. And so he'd sold it, and then he couldn't stand not working, couldn't stand not being involved. He needed to be in the hands-on mode. And I don't know how many different classes you've taken that talked about this. I suspect you've taken as many or more than me. But in the early classes that I took, we talked a lot about people who were great startup people, and they could get a business going, and it would make money, and it'd be flying, but they were terrible at managing a full-blown company.
Yeah.
And they weren't happy with it. They didn't want to be in that case. They didn't want to. They didn't want to be the CEO with a whole bunch of
responsibilities.
But I'm trying to think of the term. Board members. He didn't want to have to deal with. They didn't want to deal with board members. They wanted to have control. They wanted to be in the hands-on part of it. And that's the kind of guy he seems to be, to me, as he needs to be. Look at the number of people he hired. He paid extra money to get people with tons of experience, so he only needed 9. 9 people. Maybe it was 10 by the time he hired Joe, whatever his name was. But he had just 10 major people working for him, other than all the littler guys. He didn't have a huge number of people to report to him, and so on. He just had the 9. And if he turned that into a huge company, then he was going to have a lot. And if he went public with it, then he's going to have a whole lot even more people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that was my thinking. was that he had to do one of those two. And I got the feeling from the fact that he was able to bring back all these people that had been part of these other companies,
Mhm.
that he must have really treated them well. When he sold the company, they must have made out really well, or they wouldn't have come back for another dish of this.
Mhm.
They would have said, no, we're not going to come back with you because you're just going to sell it again and we're going to be out in the cold. But he must have made it well worth their while when he sold the companies.
Yeah.
And he could do that if he partnered with Procter & Gamble, for example, and he could step aside and do what he wanted to do and leave his people in running that business, and he could just kind of step aside and not necessarily be involved as long as he had people that were able to run it.
Yeah.
And
then if he wanted to come back, he would still have a spot.
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing I was thinking. I don't know exactly how well I wrote what I was thinking, but that's that's what I was thinking as I was going through the process.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. That was number 6. Was that 6? 7. And in this, how did you analyze the case? Well, what I did was I kind of did a lot of what that video taught us in the very beginning, which was last year we did a lot of analyzing of cases, and I wish that we had that instruction then, because I felt like I should do that, but I felt I was cheating, so I didn't. But I think it was really important to read the first part, get a feel for what's going on, and then read what they're trying to solve, and then go back and read the middle. It makes much more sense.
Yeah, it does.
And last year I didn't do that because they didn't give that instruction, and I always felt like I was cheating if I did. But that's sort of what I did this time. And
I followed the steps, and then getting the questions before you read through all of it, I think was helpful because you looked for the answer.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was really good. And that's kind of like what I did this time. Although I'm trying to answer these 8 questions at the same time, so it was very much more confusing.
Yeah.
Than if I hadn't had the 8 questions to deal with. Write what questions you learned to ask as an entrepreneur. Okay. Well, I've got 6 or 7 questions that I think are important. How many do you have?
I actually don't have any. I didn't totally know what to write.
Let's discuss what I've got, and then if you have something you want to add to it, let's go from there. How's that? Okay. Now, I'm not going to swear that these are in the right order. I tried to put them in the right order, but I did juggle them around a couple times. Who would have a need for this product? That would be my first question. Who needs it? If you can't come up with people who are going to need it or want it or use it, then you might as well stop right there.
Mm-hmm.
Can it be made? Is someone already making it? Who is making it? Can it be made appreciably better or cheaper? Not just a little better or a little cheaper, but it has to be significant. At what price could it be sold? At what cost to make it? Because you gotta have an idea what you can sell it for, and you gotta have an idea what you can make it for. Otherwise, you might as well stop as well. Those are the questions that I came up with. I'm sure there's at least who knows how many more, but what do you think?
Yeah, those are pretty much spot on. I just got done with IBC last semester. And pretty much everything we learned, it was just find the need and do what the customer wants. So that's like the biggest part, I think, of being an entrepreneur is even if you think it's a wonderful idea, it might not be. I mean, if no one buys it, it's not a wonderful idea. So just making sure that what you have is what people want and that it's the best that it could be.
I've been very involved with Boy Scouts for a number of years, and one year in preparing to go to a national jamboree, we took our national jamboree scout troop to a museum because we knew that on tour we were going to be taking them to a lot of museums, and we wanted them to understand how they had to behave and how and so that we could figure out how we were going to control the group and so on. We took them to a car museum in Los Angeles. I don't know where are you guys from?
I'm from Washington State.
Ah, okay. My son used to have a girlfriend from Washington State. She's currently on a mission in Paris.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So, but here in California, there's a museum down in Los Angeles that's an auto museum. They have a museum for really old, really new, really fast cars. There's all kinds of stuff in there. One of the cars that they showed was a really nice looking car. The problem was it was developed, I don't remember the exact year, so I think it was in the 30s. Nobody liked it. Here, it was aerodynamically designed, like the new cars. So it would get much better gas mileage, and much less wind noise because of the airflow would go around it. But nobody hardly bought the car because it wasn't what people wanted. It was ugly. They wanted one of those big, tall, stand-up, that we now think of as ugly. And its windows were more curved, more rounded. Everything about it was. It looked like an easy late 50s or early 60s car. Yeah. And it was built in the 30s. But nobody wanted it because that wasn't what the people wanted. And that's the way it is I think it's with a lot of things that are invented. They have to be a need. People have to want them.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think that was So what I did for my hypothesis, I just put down that John needs to be a hands-on manager or / owner. He won't be comfortable just sitting behind the desk dealing with the board and its stockholders. And so that is what I was attempting to prove. And what I did with that is, let's see, what did I say with that? I mentioned the fact that John sold every business that he had ever had, didn't keep him very long. I mentioned the fact that he had only kept the longest one was 8 years. He was never in a situation where he had to sell. All of the businesses, as far as I can tell, it was his choice to sell them. It wasn't like he'd been being run out of business by the big boys. It was he had chose to. Now maybe he saw it coming, like when he changed from the blankets to go on hot water heaters, and those items when he got away from the energy efficient stuff and went to baby stuff. That's a huge change.
Yeah.
But he saw the one coming, and so he made a change. But he didn't sell. He just made a change. And then he sold that business to Gerber or somebody. And those are the things that I used. There was one place in there where he'd been off work for a couple, 3 years, and he said he was restless and he had to go back he needed to get back involved with the inventing and the creating of a business.
Yeah.
And those are the things that I used as proof for my hypothesis. I didn't have any luck finding any of that information in the what do they call those things? Exhibits. You know, there
Yeah.
was nothing in the exhibits. There was nothing in the in any of that other part of the documents that helped to substantiate any of my thoughts or claims. I'm taking it all strictly from the other part because there wasn't anything else. How did you do that?
So I said pretty much the same thing, that he should find a partner. They'll give him the support he needs. He can still have a part in it if he wants, or he can take a step back if that's what he wants. But because he said he was bored, it made me think that he wanted to be in it for a little bit longer this time.
Mm-hmm.
Because he doesn't really need the money. He doesn't need the experience, just stuff like that. But he just wanted to be part of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
maybe this would be a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And the only evidence I found was just the sales of Procter & Gamble. They bring in $38 billion every year, or $38 trillion in sales every year.
Yeah.
So they have plenty of money and support to take on Dr. John's.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like that would make their business, but it would just be a good addition to them.
Mm-hmm.
So it seemed like it was a good idea.
Yeah, especially since they didn't have one.
Yeah.
Since they didn't have an electric toothbrush, that going to them would be a positive thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're very much on the same page with this whole thing. I wonder how the other students are. So anyway. Very good. So okay. So do we need to take ourselves? Mm-hmm. Do we need to take ourselves offline or off live so that we can, since we've pretty much decided on this one, or is there anything else that we need to cover?
I think we're good, as far as I understand. Maybe we did it all wrong, but I think it was good.
Okay. Well, I know that last semester the guy knew how to take us off live, and then we could continue to talk and set up what we're going to do for this next week.
Yeah. Here.